The cold metallic corridors of the research vessel hummed with a quiet anticipation. Hyun Kim stood near the main observation window, his fingers tracing the holographic display of star charts. The vast darkness of space stretched before him, peppered with distant pinpricks of light that seemed to whisper ancient secrets. The Klaxon Collective's latest mission was supposed to be routine, a simple exploratory research assignment in a sector most considered unremarkable. Hyun knew better than to get excited, but something about this journey felt different. His team of 5 researchers moved quietly around the ship's central research hub, each preparing their equipment with practiced precision. Researcher Min Lee adjusted her scanning equipment, her hands moving with a mechanical efficiency that spoke of years of training. She glanced at Hyun, catching his distant look. "Something on your mind?" she asked, her voice cutting through the ambient ship sounds. Hyun shook his head. "Just a feeling," he muttered, which was unusual for someone trained to rely purely on scientific data and observable evidence. The ship's internal systems displayed multiple layers of environmental readings. Temperature, stable. Radiation levels, minimal. Potential contact probability, less than 0.03%. Everything seemed perfectly normal, which in deep space exploration often meant something was about to go spectacularly wrong. Junior researcher Sung Park approached with a datapad, his young face showing a mixture of excitement and nervousness. "Initial scans of the sector are complete," he reported. "Nothing unusual detected, just another empty region of space." But empty was a relative term in the vast cosmic landscape. Hyun knew that empty could mean anything from complete vacuum to hidden dangers waiting just beyond sensor range. The research vessel named Curiosity's Edge was not a military craft. It was designed for observation, collection, and analysis. Its sleek design reflected the Klaxon Collective's preference for elegant scientific instruments over aggressive military hardware. Soft blue lights illuminated the control panels, creating an almost peaceful atmosphere that belied the potential dangers of deep space exploration. Hyun remembered his training. Always be prepared. Always expect the unexpected. The universe was not kind to those who became complacent. A soft beeping interrupted his thoughts. Min stepped closer to the main scanning console, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "Receiving some interesting readings," she said, her tone shifting from professional to slightly uncertain. "Define interesting," Hyun responded, moving closer to examine the data. The scanners showed minute fluctuations in the surrounding space, tiny electromagnetic disturbances that didn't match any standard cataloged phenomenon. They were subtle, so subtle that most researchers would have dismissed them as sensor errors, but Hyun Kim was not most researchers. "Zoom in," he instructed Sung, who quickly expanded the scanning parameters. The holographic display shifted, revealing intricate patterns of energy that seemed to dance and weave in complex formations. Something was out there. Something unexpected. The ship's artificial gravity maintained a perfect balance, but Hyun could feel a subtle tension growing among the research team. Years of space exploration had taught them that unexpected readings often preceded significant discoveries, or significant dangers. "Run a full spectrum analysis," Hyun commanded. His voice was calm, but his eyes betrayed a growing sense of anticipation. Sung nodded, initiating a comprehensive scan that would take several minutes to complete. The research team waited in collective silence, each lost in their own thoughts about what mysterious readings might reveal. Little did they know that their routine mission was about to become anything but routine. The universe had plans, complex, unpredictable plans that would challenge everything they thought they knew about exploration, discovery, and the nature of intelligent life. The Curiosity's Edge continued its steady journey through the dark expanse, unaware that first contact was imminent and nothing would ever be the same again. The soft hum of the ship's systems was interrupted by a sudden sharp ping from the scanning console. Hyun's head snapped toward the sound, his body going instantly rigid. Something had entered their scanning range, something that didn't match any known vessel profile in their database. Sung zoomed the external cameras and a simple yet strange craft appeared on the screen. It looked almost primitive, with rough metallic surfaces and visible welding points. Nothing like the sleek, advanced designs of the Klaxon Collective's research vessels. "Is that a human vessel?" Min whispered, her voice a mixture of confusion and disbelief. The ship moved with an unexpected grace, appearing and disappearing at irregular intervals, a movement that suggested advanced stealth capabilities hidden behind an apparently basic exterior. It was like watching a predator disguised as prey. Hyun's training kicked in. "Passive scanning only," he instructed. "No active probes. We observe first." The human vessel seemed to dance through space, its movements suggesting a pilot with exceptional skills. Each maneuver appeared calculated, precise, nothing like the random movements one would expect from a supposedly primitive species. Researcher Ji-hoon, the team's communication specialist, began preparing potential communication protocols. His fingers moved quickly across translation interfaces, ready to establish first contact procedures. "They haven't detected us," Sung reported, his young voice steady but excited. "Our current stealth systems are holding." But something felt off. The human vessel seemed too calm, too deliberate. It was as if they knew exactly where the Klaxon research ship was located, despite their advanced camouflage technologies. A sudden burst of static crackled through the communication systems. Then, unexpectedly, a voice, clear, crisp, and decidedly human, filled the ship's interior. "Unidentified research vessel. We see you." The words were simple, direct, impossible. Hyun felt a chill run down his spine. How could they possibly see them? Their stealth systems were among the most advanced in known space. No species should be able to detect them so easily. Min's hands moved rapidly across her console, running diagnostics. "Our systems are intact," she reported. "No breach in our stealth field detected." The human vessel made another impossible movement, sliding between sensor gaps with a fluidity that suggested something beyond standard navigation capabilities. It was almost as if they understood the Klaxon ship's scanning limitations better than the research team itself. "Prepare communication response," Hyun instructed, his voice calm despite the growing tension. Ji-hoon nodded, activating standard first contact protocols, polite, diplomatic, designed to establish peaceful communication. But the humans seemed to have a different plan. Another burst of communication came through. "We've been watching you for quite some time," the voice said. There was something in the tone, a mix of amusement and warning, that sent uncomfortable shivers through the research team. Sung's hands were shaking slightly as he monitored the incoming data. They're scanning us," he said, his voice a mix of fear and fascination. The human vessel was doing the impossible, penetrating scanning barriers that should have been impenetrable, revealing capabilities that contradicted everything the Klaxon Collective understood about technological development. Hyun realized something fundamental was happening. This was not going to be a standard first contact scenario. This was going to be something entirely different. The human vessel drew closer, its movements calculated and precise. No signs of aggression, but no signs of submission either. It was a perfect balance of potential threat and potential communication. "Prepare all defensive systems," Hyun whispered, "but do not, under any circumstances, initiate aggressive response." The research team watched, collectively holding their breath, as the human vessel continued its approach. Each moment felt like an eternity, charged with potential, danger, discovery, or something entirely unexpected. First contact was happening, and nothing would ever be the same again. The tension inside the Klaxon research vessel grew thick enough to cut with a knife. Hyun watched as the human vessel made another impossible maneuver, sliding between their most advanced sensor arrays like a ghost. "They're playing with us," Min muttered, her hands moving frantically across the communication console. The human voice returned, calm and almost friendly. "We know exactly what you're thinking," it said. "And no, this isn't going to go the way you expect." Sung's initial scans had suggested the human vessel was technologically primitive. Now, those assumptions looked embarrassingly wrong. The ship moved with a precision that suggested technology far beyond their initial assessments. Ji-hoon attempted to initiate standard diplomatic communication protocols. His carefully prepared greeting was met with a burst of static, and then laughter. "You've been watching us for months," the human voice continued, "but you understand nothing." Suddenly, the research vessel's primary systems began to flutter. Lights dimmed. Scanning equipment started producing random nonsensical data. It was as if something was systematically disrupting their most advanced technologies. Hyun realized they were being systematically disabled, not through force, but through something far more sophisticated. The human vessel hadn't fired a single weapon. It hadn't made any aggressive moves. Instead, it was dismantling their technological superiority with what seemed like minimal effort. Communication systems began producing strange interference. Technical readouts became scrambled. Even their most secure data channels seemed compromised. "How are they doing this?" Min whispered, her professional calm starting to crack. Sung's hands moved across his console, trying desperately to maintain system integrity. But whatever the humans were doing seemed to anticipate every defensive move before it could be implemented. The research team watched in growing horror as their most advanced technological systems were systematically neutralized. Not destroyed, not damaged, simply rendered ineffective. "We could disable your entire ship in less than 3 minutes," the human voice said. "But we're choosing to communicate instead." Hyun understood then that this was more than a technological confrontation. This was a demonstration of capabilities, a clear message about power, intelligence, and potential. The human vessel drew closer. Its movements suggested a predator toying with prey, not out of malice but out of a complex mixture of curiosity and strategic calculation. "Your mission parameters," the voice continued, "have been known to us since you entered this sector. We've been tracking your research vessel for weeks." Each word was a calculated strike against their professional pride. The Klaxon Collective prided itself on stealth, on undetectable research missions. And here they were, completely exposed. Sung's younger face showed a mixture of fear and fascination. His hands had stopped moving across the console. There was nothing left to do but watch. The human vessel began transmitting data, complex, intricate streams of information that their systems could barely process. Star charts, research logs, detailed analyses that suggested a level of understanding far beyond what their initial scans had suggested. "We are not what you think we are," the voice said. Simple words, profound meaning. Hyun felt something shift in the room. This was no longer a research mission. This was a fundamental challenge to everything they believed about technological development, about intelligence, about their place in the universe. The human vessel continued its silent demonstration. Each moment revealed another layer of capability, another reason to reconsider everything they thought they knew. Resistance, they were learning, wasn't about weapons. It was about intelligence, adaptability, the ability to understand and neutralize a threat before it could even fully manifest. The research team sat in collective silence, watching their most advanced systems become nothing more than sophisticated paperweights. First contact had become something entirely unexpected, and they were just beginning to understand how little they truly knew. The silence inside the research vessel felt heavy, almost suffocating. Hyun watched as their most sophisticated systems continued to respond erratically, dancing to an invisible rhythm controlled by the human vessel. "We're going to have a conversation," the human voice announced. Not a request, a statement. Min's communication console suddenly cleared. A single image appeared, a simple star map with multiple highlighted sectors. Sectors that represented years of Klaxon collective research, meticulously documented and believed to be secret. Sung leaned forward, his young face a mixture of fear and fascination. "They know everything," he whispered. The human vessel began, transmitting data streams that challenged everything the research team understood about technological capabilities. Complex algorithms, intricate communication patterns, information that suggested their understanding of intelligence was fundamentally limited. Your assumption about our technological development is incorrect, the voice continued. Each word felt like a precise surgical strike against their professional pride. Hyun realized they were experiencing something beyond traditional first contact. This was a complete deconstruction of their technological and intellectual superiority. The ship's defensive systems, once considered cutting-edge, now looked like primitive toys. The humans weren't just neutralizing their technology, they were demonstrating how comprehensively they could control it. Ji-hoon's communication protocols began producing unexpected results. Instead of standard translation matrices, the system started generating complex philosophical discussions about technological evolution, adaptive intelligence, and interspecies communication. "We've been watching," the human voice repeated. "Not just your ship, your entire civilization." The research team exchanged looks of growing unease. This wasn't a standard encounter. This was a comprehensive examination and potential judgment. Suddenly, their primary data storage began displaying historical records. Not just recent research, but deep archival information that should have been impossible to access. Star charts. From centuries ago, migration patterns, technological development timelines. "Your records," the voice said, "are incomplete and frequently inaccurate." Sung's hands trembled as he tried to interrupt the data stream. Impossible. Whatever was happening operated beyond their understanding of technological limitations. The human vessel made another impossible maneuver, sliding between sensor gaps, with a grace that suggested sentient calculation, not just piloting, something more profound. Hyun understood then that this encounter represented more than a technological confrontation. This was a philosophical challenge, a complete reimagining of what intelligence could represent. The data continued flowing. Complex mathematical equations, philosophical discussions, technological projections that made their most advanced research look like children's drawings. "We are not what you expect," the voice repeated. "We are something else entirely." Min's communication systems began producing unexpected translations. Mathematical concepts transformed into linguistic expressions. Scientific data becoming philosophical discussions. The boundaries between information categories were dissolving. The research team watched, collectively holding their breath as their understanding of reality was systematically dismantled. The human vessel wasn't just communicating. It was teaching, demonstrating, revealing layers of complexity that challenged fundamental assumptions about technological development, intelligence, and interspecies interaction. Hyun felt something profound shifting, not just in their mission, but in their entire comprehension of what was possible. The turning point wasn't a moment of conflict. It was a moment of profound, uncomfortable revelation. They were not the observers. They were the observed. And everything they thought they knew was about to change forever. The research vessel drifted in silence, its once proud systems now completely transformed by the human encounter. Hyun Kim stared at the communication console, understanding that nothing would ever be the same. "Your mission ends here," the human voice announced, simple words that carried enormous weight. Massive data transfers continued, revealing layers of information that challenged everything the Klaxon Collective believed about themselves and the universe. Star charts redesigned, historical records rewritten, technological assumptions completely dismantled. Sung watched in shock as their research databases began reconstructing themselves. Complex algorithms rewrote entire scientific protocols. Years of collected information were being fundamentally reorganized. "We are not your experiment," the human voice continued. "You are ours." The revelation was both terrifying and profound. The research team wasn't conducting an investigation. They were being investigated. Min's hands moved across her console, trying desperately to understand the data streams. Complex mathematical equations transformed into philosophical discussions. Scientific observations became intricate narrative structures that defied traditional understanding. The human vessel remained nearby, silent but omnipresent. Its very existence was a statement, a challenge, a complete reimagining of technological potential. Hyun realized they were experiencing something beyond first contact. This was a comprehensive evaluation of their entire civilization's potential and limitations. Transmission after transmission revealed uncomfortable truths. The Klaxon Collective's understanding of space, technology, and intelligence was fundamentally limited. Their most advanced research looked like primitive scribbles compared to the information now flooding their systems. "Your reports will change," the voice stated. Not a suggestion. A certainty. Ji-hoon watched in growing fascination as communication protocols dissolved. Languages merged. Mathematical concepts became living narratives. The boundaries between information categories disappeared. The research vessel's internal systems began producing unexpected results. Navigation charts reconstructed themselves. Historical records rewrote their own narratives. Technology that was supposed to be advanced now looked like children's toys. "We have been watching," the human voice repeated. "Not just your ship, your entire civilization." Sung's young face showed a mixture of terror and profound understanding. They were not conquering, they were teaching. The consequences were immediate and comprehensive. Every assumption the research team held was systematically dismantled. Not through force, through information, through a demonstration of intelligence that defied traditional understanding. Hyun understood then that this encounter would become legendary. A moment when everything changed. When one civilization revealed the profound limitations of another, the human vessel began preparing to disconnect, but not before delivering a final message. "Remember this moment," the voice said. "Remember what you've learned." Massive data transfers completed, systems stabilized, but nothing would ever be the same. The Klaxon Collective's research mission had become something else entirely. A lesson, a transformation, an unforgettable encounter that would reshape their entire understanding of the universe. As the human vessel prepared to disconnect, Hyun realized they were not victims. They were students, witnessing something profound and terrifying. First contact was complete. The consequences would last generations. The universe had just become much larger, much more complex, much more extraordinary.